All right, history buffs, get ready. Because today we're going deep, deep into human history, the whole thing.
The whole thing, yeah.
We're tackling the big questions, like where did Homo sapiens come from?
Mhm.
How did we go from foraging for berries to launching rockets into space?
Right.
And maybe even get a glimpse of where we're headed.
Yeah, some big questions.
Big questions, our guide for this incredible journey.
Yeah.
Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. Have you read this?
I have. It's a great book. Really thought-provoking.
Yeah, and it's not just dates and dusty artifacts.
No.
We're going to really explore what makes us human.
That's the interesting part, right?
Yeah, things like language,
Mm-hmm.
our ability to collaborate on a massive scale.
Yeah.
And this is a big one, the power to believe in concepts
Okay.
that have no physical form.
Yes.
Like a nation.
Right.
You can't
Can't touch it.
touch a nation.
All right.
Or money.
Yep.
Or a religion.
It's wild when you think about it.
It's crazy.
These imagined realities, as Harari calls them, they've shaped our world.
In ways you might not expect.
Yeah, in ways we probably don't even realize.
I mean, think about it. For a long time, early humans were just another species.
Another animal.
Yeah, just trying to survive. No more impactful than, say, a herd of gazelles or a school of fish.
Right, just trying to make it day by day.
Yeah, so what happened?
That is the question, isn't it?
How did we go from scavenging for scraps
Yeah.
to building these massive skyscrapers,
Composing symphonies.
writing symphonies? What set us on this unique path?
What's different about us?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're going to try to figure out.
Okay, one of the biggest turning points, for sure.
For sure.
The development of our brains.
Those big brains of ours.
But it came with a cost, right?
Definitely.
Harari talks about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Our big brains, a major energy trade-off.
Oh, yeah, they're like gas-guzzling machines up there.
They need a lot of fuel.
Yeah, they need a lot of energy to keep going.
So to feed those hungry brains, we sacrifice muscle power for mental prowess.
Wow, that's a big trade.
Yeah, imagine a less agile, weaker human struggling to climb trees or outrun predators.
That's a scary thought,
Yeah.
especially back then.
It was a huge gamble.
It was a really big risk that our ancestors took.
So what made those big brains worth the risk?
That's the question.
Was it just about being a bit smarter?
I think it's more than that. I
Yeah.
think it's about the ability to think strategically,
Okay.
to plan ahead,
Okay.
to cooperate with others.
Okay.
Imagine early humans on a hunt, right?
Okay.
The ones who could outsmart their prey,
Yeah.
anticipate their movements,
Okay.
and work together effectively as a group.
Right.
They were more likely to bring home dinner.
Yeah, makes sense.
So those mental advantages, even subtle ones,
Okay.
could mean the difference between survival and starvation.
Wow. Yeah, so it wasn't just about being a little bit smarter.
Right.
It was about having this whole other set of tools
Absolutely.
to survive.
And over time, those advantages compounded.
Okay.
They shaped not just our hunting strategies, but our entire social structure.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Right.
But then there's this other piece,
Okay.
our ability to believe in things that don't physically exist.
This is huge.
It is crazy.
This is what sets us apart.
Yeah, like nations, money religions, corporations.
Yeah.
These things aren't tangible, right? You can't
touch them.
hold them,
Yeah.
but they shape our world
They really do.
in profound ways.
Incredible.
Harari calls them imagined realities,
Mm-hmm.
and they're one of the keys to human success.
I think so.
He uses this example of Peugeot.
The car company.
Yeah, the car company.
Yeah.
He argues that Peugeot, the company,
Okay.
doesn't actually exist in a physical sense.
Interesting.
There are cars,
There are factories.
there are factories' employees, a logo,
Right.
but Peugeot itself is a shared story,
It's a
a
concept.
legal entity
Yeah.
that exists because we all agree that it does.
We collectively believe in it.
So if it's just an idea,
Okay.
why do we act as if it's real?
Right.
We buy Peugeot cars.
We invest in Peugeot stock.
Yeah.
It's a powerful example
How is that possible?
because that's the power of these shared stories,
Okay.
these imagined realities.
Yeah.
They allow us to cooperate
Okay.
in huge numbers,
Yeah.
to build complex societies,
Right.
to achieve things that would be impossible for individuals acting alone.
Think about it. No other animal can organize themselves into groups of millions
For a billion.
or billions based on a shared belief
Right.
in something that doesn't physically exist.
It's mind-boggling.
It's one of the things that makes us uniquely human.
I agree.
Okay, so This idea of imagined realities is kind of blowing my mind right now.
It's a big concept.
What about today?
Okay.
What are some of the big imagined realities that we believe in?
Ooh, good question.
What stories are shaping our world right now?
Well, I think human rights is a big one.
Okay.
You can't see or touch human rights. But our belief in this concept
Yeah,
has led to laws, institutions, even revolutions.
right.
It has real-world consequences, even though it's an abstract idea.
That's a good one. What else?
Money, of course,
Money? Yeah, we talked about that.
as we discussed, or the modern concept of romantic love.
Ooh,
Is it a genuine emotion or a story?
that's a good one.
We've inherited from centuries of literature, art,
Mhm.
and culture.
Wow. Okay, so you're saying that our beliefs,
Our shared stories.
our shared stories have the power to shape our reality.
Absolutely.
Wow.
They provide a framework for understanding the world
Okay.
and our place in it.
Mm-hmm.
They give us a sense of purpose,
Yeah.
belonging.
And they motivate us to act in certain ways.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've gone from scavenging for food
Great.
to building civilizations
Hmm.
based on these shared stories.
Incredible.
Which brings us to another pivotal moment in human history,
Okay.
the agricultural revolution.
Here we go.
Was it a blessing or a curse?
Ooh, good question.
Because on one hand, we developed farming,
Right.
led to settlements, cities, food surpluses,
Or stability.
but it also brought about harder work,
Definitely.
social hierarchies.
Yeah. More complex societies.
And Harari says even new forms of anxiety.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
He talks about the anxieties of ancient farmers.
What kind of anxieties?
Well, they were constantly worried about the weather.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Pests, bandits, stealing their harvest.
Oh, yeah.
They were tied to a particular piece of land
Yeah,
and vulnerable in ways they hadn't been before.
right. They couldn't just pick up and move.
Exactly. So they traded the freedom of foraging
Okay.
for the security, but also the anxieties of settled life.
So it's like trading one set of problems
Right.
for another.
Exactly.
And it makes you think about like the trade-offs we make for security and stability today.
It's a theme that runs throughout human history.
It does for sure. And speaking of trade-offs, what about the domestication of animals? We tend to think of it as like a positive thing.
Right.
We have these animals that provide us with food and labor, companionship, but Harari describes a much more complex reality.
He does. He brings up some good points.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like take sheep, for example.
Okay, sheep.
Wild sheep.
Yeah.
Pretty independent.
Creatures.
Yeah, sort of creatures, but domesticated sheep.
Yeah.
Bred for docility,
Submissiveness.
traits that make them easier for humans to control,
Right.
but maybe not so great for the sheep themselves.
Yeah, not so much.
It's a reminder that our relationship with the natural world has often been one of control and exploitation,
Yeah.
even from the early days of agriculture.
It's a good point to keep in mind.
It is. It's a really thought-provoking point.
It is.
It makes you wonder about the ethical implications of our actions, even from thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So was the agricultural revolution ultimately a good thing or a bad thing for humanity?
That is the question.
It seems like there's no easy answer.
I don't think there is.
It's complex.
Very complex.
We wouldn't have the world we have today without it.
That's true.
But it's crucial to remember that progress isn't always linear.
Definitely not.
What looks like a clear advancement from our modern perspective
Mm-hmm.
might have felt very different
Oh, yeah.
to those living through it.
Absolutely.
So we've covered the cognitive revolution, the development of those energy-hungry brains,
Right.
and the agricultural revolution with all its complexities.
Lots of complexities.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about how these events shaped the trajectory of our species.
It really is. It's a fascinating story.
But the story doesn't end there.
Oh, no.
Next, we'll delve into the rise of empires and what Harari calls universal orders.
Those grand narratives.
Get ready for another fascinating chapter in our deep dive
I'm ready.
into human history.
Let's go.
Okay, so we've got these humans. They're masters at creating imagined realities.
Right.
The agricultural revolution was a huge turning point.
But not without its downsides. What happens next in our human story?
Well, as humans settle down, start farming, populations grow.
Okay.
Societies become more complex,
Yeah, makes sense.
And this sets the stage for the rise of empires
Empires.
and what Harari calls universal orders.
Universal orders.
Yeah, these grand narratives that are used to unite vast groups of people.
Okay.
under a single system.
So these universal orders were like stories, basically,
They are stories.
that help justify the power of empires.
Yeah, help legitimize them.
It's amazing how these intangible ideas
Yeah.
have such a real impact on the world.
They really do.
It's fascinating to see how empires throughout history have relied on similar types of narratives,
It's a common thread.
even if the details are different.
Right, the specifics might change, but the basic structure is the same.
Harari compares the Code of Hammurabi,
Okay.
which is a set of laws from ancient Babylon,
Yeah, way back.
with the Declaration of Independence.
No, that's a pretty wild comparison. I know, right? What could those two documents possibly have in common?
Well, on the surface,
Yeah,
they seem totally different, thousands of years apart.
totally different cultures.
Different cultures, yeah, you're right.
But at their core,
Mm-hmm.
they both function as stories
It's all about storytelling.
about how society should be organized.
Right. They lay out a vision for a just and ordered world,
Okay.
and they serve to legitimize the power structures of their respective societies.
So both the Code of Hammurabi and the Declaration of Independence,
Okay.
despite their differences,
Yeah.
were essentially tools for creating a shared sense of identity and purpose.
I think so.
Kind of like those imagined realities we talked about earlier.
It all ties together.
Okay, so the Code of Hammurabi, with its strict social hierarchy,
Yeah, superiors, commoners, slaves.
yeah, it reinforced the idea that these divisions were divinely ordained.
Not human constructs.
It's a stark reminder that concepts like equality and individual rights,
Mm-hmm.
which we often take for granted today, are actually relatively recent ideas in human history.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, let's move on to another topic that might seem a bit dry at first,
Okay.
but I promise it's fascinating money.
Money, money, money.
How did we go from bartering goods
Yeah,
to these complex financial systems we have today?
it's a long journey.
It is a long journey.
Harari does a great job of tracing the evolution of money.
Okay, how does he break it down?
Well, he starts with those early systems of bartering.
Okay, so like trading a chicken for a basket of wheat.
Exactly, direct exchange.
Yeah.
Then we see the use of commodities like barley or silver as currency.
Okay, so like a standardized form of barter.
Right, something with a more universally recognized value.
And eventually we developed more abstract forms of money,
Mm.
like coins and paper bills.
Which were easier to trade and transport.
Way easier.
Much more efficient.
So money, in a sense,
Okay.
is another one of those imagined realities.
It is. It really is.
I mean, a dollar bill itself is just a piece of paper.
Just a piece of paper.
It has no intrinsic value.
No, it only works because we collectively believe it does.
It's crazy when you think about it.
It's the power of shared belief,
Yeah.
our collective imagination.
And this trust, the shared belief, has allowed for the development of these incredibly complex financial systems.
Global markets.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, capitalism.
Capitalism, the driving force of modern times.
You could say that.
It's brought about incredible innovation.
Wealth creation.
Yeah.
Lifted millions out of poverty.
It also has a dark side.
It does.
Harari doesn't shy away from that, does he?
He doesn't. He's very honest about the potential downsides.
He uses the example of the Atlantic slave trade
Right.
to illustrate the potential for exploitation and cruelty inherent in unrestrained capitalism.
That's a powerful example.
He argues that the slave trade wasn't just driven by racist ideologies,
Yeah.
but also by the cord logic of profit and loss.
Greed is a powerful motivator.
It is.
European investors saw an opportunity to make money,
Right.
and they were willing to overlook the horrific human cost.
It's a chilling reminder that economic systems, even ones as powerful as capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
need ethical frameworks to prevent them from being used for terrible ends.
Absolutely. We need guardrails.
It makes you wonder how we can balance the undeniable benefits of capitalism
Yeah.
with the need to protect human dignity and prevent exploitation.
That's the challenge of our time,
It's a huge challenge.
especially in a globalized world
Right, where everything's so interconnected.
where economic forces operate across national boundaries
Yeah,
and outside the reach of traditional regulatory mechanisms.
finding that balance,
It's not easy.
it's one of the defining challenges of our time for sure.
Speaking of paradigm shifts,
Okay, let's shift gears.
let's move on to the scientific revolution.
Here we
This is where things really start to accelerate.
Right, we see a dramatic shift in how humans understand the world.
And their place in it.
It wasn't just about new discoveries, was it?
No, it was a profound transformation
Yeah.
in how we acquire knowledge.
Okay.
Suddenly questioning old assumptions
Yeah.
and seeking out new observations.
Yeah, it became the norm.
It did. It was a complete rejection of blind faith,
Like in tradition.
in dogma,
Yeah.
in favor of empirical evidence and experimentation.
Wow. Okay, so instead of relying solely on ancient texts,
Or religious authorities.
people started to look to the natural world itself for answers.
That's right. They started to observe and experiment.
It's like they were finally waking up.
To the power of science.
Harari uses the example of European exploration
Okay.
to illustrate this shift.
Interesting choice.
As explorers sailed to new lands,
Right.
they encountered all these unfamiliar cultures.
New species.
New species.
They were forced to confront the limitations of their existing knowledge.
Right. Their old ways of thinking just didn't cut it anymore.
Exactly. They had to develop new methods of observation and analysis.
To make sense of all this new information,
The world was expanding before their eyes.
it's like a whole new world opened up to them.
It did.
So European exploration was
Yeah.
actually like a catalyst
In a way, it was.
for the scientific revolution,
By encountering the unknown,
right?
they were forced to rethink their understanding of everything.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It is.
And this new way of thinking,
Mhm.
combined with advancements in technology and mathematics,
Led to a cascade of groundbreaking discoveries.
astronomy, physics, biology, medicine.
It was a revolution in every sense of the word.
The world as it was understood was
Yeah.
being completely rewritten.
The old maps were being thrown out.
It's amazing how exploration and a willingness to question the status quo
Right.
could lead to such a radical shift in human understanding.
Human curiosity is a powerful force.
But Harari also points out the close relationship
Okay.
between science and empire.
That's an important point.
It wasn't just a coincidence that the scientific revolution happened in Europe
Right.
at a time of unprecedented imperial expansion.
Empires had the resources.
So
Yeah, to fund and facilitate scientific research.
think about all those scientific expeditions.
Funded by European monarchs and governments.
Exactly. Those expeditions brought back new specimens, new data,
Yeah.
new insights.
Yeah, fuel for the scientific engine.
So science and empire,
Mhm.
for better or worse,
For better or for worse.
were intertwined during this period.
It's a complex relationship.
It is a complex relationship.
It's a reminder that even the most positive developments in human history
Yeah.
often have complex and sometimes troubling origins.
It's a good reminder that progress is rarely straightforward.
Rarely a straight line.
The pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of power, they often go hand in hand.
Yeah, they're intertwined.
And it's important to be aware of the ethical implications.
Absolutely.
It's a lot to unpack, but so fascinating.
It really is.
We've gone from the rise of empires
Yeah.
to the birth of modern science.
What an incredible journey.
It is incredible, but there's more. We still have to explore the implications of the scientific revolution on our understanding of happiness
Yeah.
and the mind-blowing possibilities of bioengineering.
Buckle up.
So buckle up, because we're about to dive even deeper
Deeper.
into the story of Homo sapiens.
Let's go.
All right, so we've journeyed from the dawn of humanity all the way through empires, money, and the scientific revolution.
Quite a trip.
What's next in our whirlwind tour of history?
Well, now things get really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
Harari argues that we're on the cusp of a new era.
Okay, a new era.
One where we're not just shaping our environment, but also ourselves.
Ourselves, wow.
He calls it the age of intelligent design.
Intelligent design.
But it's not a divine being doing the designing.
No.
It's us.
We're designing ourselves. That's both exhilarating and a bit terrifying.
It is a bit of both, isn't it?
Yeah, we're talking about potentially like engineering our own biology,
Mm-hmm.
overcoming things like disease aging, maybe even enhancing our cognitive abilities.
That sounds like science fiction.
It does, but it's becoming more real every day.
It is, the pace of technological advancement is incredible.
It really is, and it raises all sorts of ethical and philosophical questions.
Yeah, like what does it even mean to be human?
Right.
If we can fundamentally alter our own nature.
Yeah, where's the line between therapy and enhancement?
Good question.
And who gets to decide?
Who gets to make those decisions?
Huge question.
Huge questions.
Harari uses some specific examples that really illustrate this point.
Okay.
He talks about genetically modified pigs whose milk contains a protein that can fight human diseases.
That's pretty wild.
And he even brings up the possibility of resurrecting Neanderthals
Neanderthals.
using reconstructed DNA.
Wow. That's mind-blowing. Imagine interacting with a species we thought was extinct for tens of thousands of years.
Yeah, what could we learn from them?
Right, about our own evolution, our own consciousness.
But it also makes you wonder about our responsibilities to them.
Right, would they be research subjects, exhibits in a museum, or something else entirely?
It's a lot to grapple with.
It is a lot to think about.
And then there's the whole cyborg concept.
Cyborgs.
Okay, Harari talks about bionic limbs controlled by thought.
Yeah,
Even limbs that can be detached and operated remotely.
that's getting pretty sci-fi.
I know it's incredible, but also a little unsettling.
Yeah, it challenges our very notion of what a body is,
Right.
of what itself is.
Imagine having multiple limbs or controlling a robotic avatar on the other side of the planet.
It opens up amazing possibilities, new types of work art, even relationships.
It's like we're entering a whole new realm of human experience.
It is uncharted territory.
But I wonder what it means for our sense of identity or our sense of purpose.
Yeah, will we become more fragmented, more alienated from ourselves and each other?
Or will we find new ways to connect, new ways to define what it means to be human in this brave new world?
Those are questions each of us will have to wrestle with.
As we navigate this uncharted territory.
And it's not just about individual choices.
Right. It's about the collective decisions we make as a society.
What kind of future do we want to create?
What values will guide our technological development?
These are questions for all of humanity.
So much to think about. We've covered billions of years of history in this deep dive.
From those first tentative steps as a species.
To becoming, as Harari puts it, gods of our own creation, it's a lot to process.
It really is.
But the big takeaway, I think, is that Homo sapiens are storytellers.
We create narratives that shape our reality, our technology, our destiny.
So the question for you, dear listener, is this: what story will you be a part of writing for the future?
What a great question.
If you're anything like me, you're probably feeling inspired to learn more, and we've only scratched the surface of Harari's Sapiens.
It's a dense book packed with ideas.
I highly recommend checking it out for yourself to really dive deep into these fascinating concepts.
It's a book that challenges us to think critically about our past, present, and future.
And as we've seen, understanding the story of humanity is more crucial now than ever before.
I think so too.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through human history.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep those questions coming, because you never know what we'll uncover in our next deep dive.